Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Jeremy. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Welcome back. Did you have a nice summer?
I did, yes. Guess where I went on holiday?
Canada.
I did, yeah. And
I knew that.
it was very good, yes. Had 3 weeks traveling across from Calgary to Vancouver.
Wow.
Very interesting. Yeah. Didn't get eaten.
That's good.
No, saw a bear or two.
Wow.
Safe distance, but they were they're genuinely there. Bought a bear spray. Didn't use it.
Well, it just reminds me of what's the is not Deliverance, but the one where Leonardo DiCaprio's rolling around in the snow for 3 hours.
Oh yes, I forgot.
Irreverent or whatever. Anyway,
yeah, yes.
He gets attacked by a bear, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few films where people get eaten by bears in the end. You know, it's a thing. It does happen, and mountain lions are there as well. So just
glad you're back, safe and sound.
How was your holiday?
It was good, thanks. Yeah, I went to Dubrovnik in Croatia. So yeah, very nice part of the world, and yeah, I think I'll be back there to explore that coastline. Beautiful.
They have a the coffee style Americano in various shops in Canada. They call it Canadiano.
Really?
Yeah, which shows the strength of anti-Trump feeling.
Oh, there you are. Very good. Well, good to welcome you back, Ben, and welcome everybody to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, innovation. This week, we are going to kind of just, I guess, look back and look forward to some of the changes that we might see or might not see over the coming few months. And we're going to kind of focus a bit around an interview with Patrick Tiernan, who is the new Lloyd's chief executive. And this was a 45-minute interview with Sheila Cameron from the LMA. And it was a pretty, as you can see by the subtitles. So Patrick, it's been a big week this week, and we'll get into some of the reasons why. But it was a good interview, I thought, because it did lay the groundwork for his, I guess, tenure and what he's prioritized. So we thought we would dip into that, some of the themes that we cover, and then we can just talk about some other interesting things that we've seen in the press, and perhaps some of the tensions that might lie ahead in the market's development over the coming months. So just a bit of a recap. So Tiernan was appointed and has been in place for almost 100 days, I think 95 days when the interview went out. And it was a kind of reflection on those kind of first 100 days in post, but also then looking forward to what his priorities are going to be. And it coincided with the announcement that the Blueprint 2 modernization project was going to be pushed back, and it was unlikely to start testing before 2026, and then the cutover being pushed back to the earliest of 2028. So there's quite a lot in there. He also kind of covered quite a lot around people and culture, and I think it clearly comes through from the conversation with Sheila that people come first, and Lloyd's needs to lead by example on things like culture and attracting the best talent, which we've talked about over the years has been a problem. We'll talk a bit about the market structures, so DA, facilities, leadership, what might be on the cards in terms of tighter oversight, the roles of brokers and underwriters in developing those programs. And then I think we'll just talk a little bit about kind of moving forward, what all this means, and perhaps some tension to come out of it. I think I just wanted to start, Ben, kind of just the tone of the interview and tone of Patrick, because he came across as, quite reflective. There was lots of kind of thinking and evaluating about the past, but also kind of trying to articulate what the positives were. And I think one thing that came through really strongly, which is, I think, is trying to differentiate himself from the past, is kind of an openness and transparency around, especially if you take the blueprint too, around what that will deliver, the prizes at the end of it, and whether it'll actually deliver some of the financial benefits that were first touted when the business plan was put together. So I thought it was quite interesting from that point of view that he came at it that way. And I don't know what you thought about that.
Yes, I agree. I think it's the tone. I mean, it doesn't now matter what anybody did before, because it's now all about him and the future and Lloyd's. And I think it's important still to talk about Lloyd's, because it still has a kind of really important position in the global market, and with a significant kind of protection gap around the world, and a need for more specialty type innovative risk cover. Lloyd's has a kind of place at the table for sure, and I mean, more than a place at the table, but it's very important. So you've got him, Patrick Tin, and laying out a lot of ideas which we'll touch on in a minute. But I agree with you. The tone is down to earth. I think it is about being transparent, and I think it's really a kind of a little bit of what you might call humility, which I don't think we've always seen from Lloyd's. I think it's a sort of listening and taking sensible decisions type of positioning, and that's quite, for me, I would like that. I mean, I find that really good. I don't know if anybody does, but I don't want kind of gloss or or exaggeration. I think we've both been frustrated by a lot of the words and the language coming out. I listened to that 45. It's a long interview, 45 minutes. I didn't feel at any point there like there was steam coming out of my ears, which I often have felt in the past listening to Lloyd's pronouncements. I thought I was kind of nodding along. Yeah, sensible. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you don't have the answers to everything. You have to think about things. Good. I mean, that's what we want, really. Thoughtful. And I liked it. I thought it was good.
Cool. Right. Let's jump into some of the things in a bit more detail. So I think he opened his kind of interview just talking about kind of people and culture first, and just I think how much he's been struck by kind of the human side of the Lloyd's Corporation and the support he's felt from it. Now that we've spoken in the past on this show about some of the more toxic elements of that culture, and I think that, and we've talked about this before, culture is not something that you just leave alone and it will be there as you want it to be. It needs work, it needs leadership, it needs actively kind of nurturing, if you like. And I think that is actually, that job doesn't need to be underestimated. I think it's quite a big piece of work that needs to be done in order to.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think often the bureaucracy has been a bit of an enemy, if you like, of change, and as well as you say, some more kind of unpleasant aspects which have come out in the past. But I agree with you. I think he's saying that it's incredibly important that they get the right people. And it is, because if you're going to execute change and you're going to really do things, it's fine to talk about things in interviews like this, but if you're going to execute and do a good job of it, which the insurance industry, and Lloyd's included, has not really covered itself in glory over various projects in the past 20 odd years, it does seem now like we're not just going, oh, let's get some good new young talent in. What we want is people who can really do the job that needs to be done, and that is going to take some, not people playing political games, but some real quality people who want to actually change things. And it's never an easy market to do that, because you've got all sorts of different interests at play.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was quite interesting. A couple of times he said the phrase, "We hold ourselves to the highest standards," and I was thinking back to Keir Starmer and how that's going to come back to bite him in the last couple of weeks. So
well,
can't just leave that out there.
No, I mean, the culture survey, which they touch on, is they're not doing great in that, particularly the Lloyd's Corporation, and he focused on leadership, which I think is right, and that's a good thing to do in an interview like this. Set out the stall and say it's all about leadership. I think it's quite common for people to come out and say, I've got a great bunch of leaders and it's all going to be fine. I don't think he's saying that. I think he's saying there are some good people, but we need people to step up. And he also says he's the most accountable of the accountable leadership, which is great.
So let's move on to some of the other stuff he was talking about, which is around, and I kind of touched on this, kind of the market dynamics. So I think they were talking about solid results, and they were, obviously we want to be competing on profitability and making sure that there was stability in there. But then they moved on to kind of looking at some of the market dynamics that were in play, and they spent quite a bit of time talking about delegated authority and facilities and the imbalance between kind of the broker-led initiatives and kind of the underwriter initiatives. And I think at one point he said that should be really more 50-50. And I think it's much more skewed towards the brokers at the moment. And I think, and this will play into our conversation about kind of tech and transformation, I think within those, and you can bring in the lead follow, which they also touch on. And I think they say you need the leaders in order to have the follow market. And which is absolutely right. I think, but I've run a couple of breakfast briefings this week where we've been looking at these kind of market dynamics, and the pressure now on underwriters to have a solid information on the portfolio that they're writing, because of that kind of quite complex distribution landscape that they're working in, means that they are going to move more towards digital solutions, because then they can draw the data quicker and be able to make better decision making. So it feels to me that there is a tension there between kind of the traditional way of underwriting the follow market and those kind of facilities and things like that, to kind of the new innovative data-led digital kind of ways of doing things.
Yeah, I think there's some, I think kind of on the facility side, he's he's certainly raising concerns about, particularly as you go into a soft market, that you get these cross-class facilities, which clearly, I guess they say, well, you can't, if you're not specialist and you're just buying a bunch of risks in a bag, what are they going to be like? And I think any CEO of a volatile market specialty business is going to feel that is a concern, and they'd be worried about that. And it's obviously linked as well into the kind of automation of these baskets of risk. So that's certainly one thing. I think the other side is the potential for automation, really, of the placing aspects of the market. And what he seems to be certainly tilting towards is that we will move towards a market that is more about innovation from the insurers, which he hopes he'll get. He might not, because the brokers might just have totally owned that space. That's to be debated. And a market where, but at very least, I think he feels the competition, the around the efficiency elements of this will happen. it will just. It's kind of what you say. I think really, you were ahead of him on it, obviously, Jeremy. But he, I mean, but it is the fact that it's going to come now. It's going to happen. So I suppose that means what follows really finished. It's kind of that's just going to be an automated thing. It's just adding some capital to a slip. You don't need people to be doing that, and you move more into automation, and it to some extent data becomes more ubiquitous because of AI, because of access to data through new technology. So I don't know whether he's right about that future, but he must feel from where he sits there's a kind of inevitability that is the way it's going. So you say all that, and then then you're left with what? So you're left with then his argument that then insurers need to step up and be less risk averse, more innovative in those risks, working with customers, brokers, other parties. And perhaps he's saying, without too much kind of hyperbole, Lloyd's needs to get back into the seat of being, the unrivaled risk market in the world.
Yeah. I think I think those are all good points, and I think it'll be interesting, as you say, to see how these kind of markets and areas develop, and how much of the technology hype and vision comes through to be reality, and how much doesn't, and it kind of slips away. I think that off the back of that, I should then move into the kind of the Blueprint 2 announcement, which I thought she was quite strong on, pushing around the use of data, and why have you pushed back this transformation project that has been going on for years and years and years, and he was very clear that it was around kind of the testing program not being up and running, and they were worried that if they were to cut over and it wasn't right, there was no kind of fallback systems, and which is all that's all fine, and they're all good justifiable reasons why you do it, but you kind of go, God, we've been doing this for 5 years.
Just a question to you: do you know what Blueprint is anymore?
Not really. I think it's kind of.
I don't know what it is. I'm not as close to you as you are, but it doesn't seem to me. I know when we first actually got a blueprint. The clues in the title, which did say it's going to do this, this, and this, and then it's literally done none of those things. But let's not dwell on that. But it was at least a sort of, this is what we're going to do. Now I don't know what it's going to do. It's kind of a bit opaque to me now. But he seems to be saying it's the operating system, it's the basic systems of the market.
Yeah. So certainly came out very strongly and said that the benefits claims were overstated. So in that initial, however many £1 million it was going to save, that was overstated. Yeah. So the replatforming, kind of the plumbing that you're talking about, the moving around. I think there is an imperative to do that because the systems are old. There is a use case for staying there.
Yeah.
But the problem is, why have we got ourselves in a situation again where we've not been able to deliver, replace an old system with a new system? I know it's complex and it's big, but I think it's more of a failure of project management, or transformation teams, or whatever else it is, rather than
it is difficult. It's difficult because partly, brokers do quite a lot of the administration for the market as well. Yeah. Just taking one example, it's not just the market that does the admin. It goes into different places and different parties do it. So if that's what they're talking about, the operating systems. But yeah, it is still. He says that they're fully committed to it, but you feel like they might well be fully committed to it, but if it isn't really going to work, because they're still fully committed to it on the basis that there's testing, but fully committed but what if the testing doesn't really work out? Well, then you kind of say, well, let's ditch it again. And he's actually talking about 2030. So he says our systems will stack up until after 2030.
Yeah.
So when you take all of that, I mean, there's a lot of reading between the lines, and he says he doesn't know everything himself, which is fair enough yet. He's still reviewing. But the review pushes it out to 28 at least, and probably beyond. See, I don't know. You might be saying this could be 10 years before anything really happens, or it never. I mean, he won't be there. He's not going to do 10 years. He'll do 5 years.
And I think, gosh, in 5 years, what type of technologies are going to be available to just move data around? And I think perhaps, the other thing, if you look what the big brokers are doing to move to a proper digital platforms, whether they're using white space or PPL, whatever it is, they are trying to get the data out of PDFs and Word documents and emails into kind of structured data platform. Yeah. Now, it might be that actually they all just bypass what the old system was, and they either do it directly or through a new platform or whatever else. So there is an argument to say, well, as the technology develops and becomes more sophisticated and can do a lot of this manual grunt work of putting data in, cleansing it, checking it, that there won't be a need for a central processing hub anymore. You will just kind of have your own systems that do whatever you need it to do, but actually they'll be able to talk to other systems as well, because the technology will just solve those problems. I don't know.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it will go back to something pretty basic, really, and it'll be essentially the back and mid office systems of the Lloyd's market, and then it'll be the broking houses and the insurers themselves who have all the systems that are the front end trading systems. They'll collect the data, they'll do the job. I sense that is what is happening anyway.
Yeah.
Because why would any of these? I mean, I don't even sense it. I know it because I work with them. I mean, they are investing heavily now into technology. If you look at, some of the money being spent, which is quite openly discussed, say in the UK GI market, I think RSA, for example, which is about to rebrand, has spent something like 600 million in the last year and a bit, maybe, on trading systems. Now you could multiply that up across several players. I'm sure the spend at Aviva's bigger. I'm sure the spend at Allianz is big. In fact, I was told to spend at Allianz, I think that's in the billions. I think that's like 2.3 billion or 4 billion. There are big spends going into these technologies insurers now. So that's not for nothing. And yes, it's more difficult to automate specialty. It is, just because of the nature of it. It's still very human business where people are needed to judge things, but a lot of these technologies will start to come in and spill over into these markets, I think. Yeah. The efficiency is too important, really.
Yeah.
And if you do create that, then you clear the way for ideas and innovation and new things, which is good.
Yeah. So I thought it was a pretty good interview, and it was like I come back to what I said at the beginning. I think it's quite interesting that the tone, that kind of reflective piece, the transparency, and just trying to put in a fresh start down. It was quite interesting that he didn't say anything about his predecessors or
no. You could argue he's looking to the future, but my God, he is looking to the future. Yeah, there's no history, no past. It's just unusual for Lloyd's.
Yeah.
But he's focusing on the moment. He's focusing on the things he has to do, and that could be great. Really, yeah. Would be really good. I think a vibrant Lloyd's. I'd love the stuff he said at the end about taking out anything extraneous as well. That's not needed. I mean, in a bad way, said it could be things that we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 150 years ago, or something. I think he was probably more focused on the stuff they've done for the last 150 years and are still doing.
Yeah.
It needs to go. So yes, I think that will be music to the ears of a lot of people who deal with Lloyd's.
Yeah, that's it. And let's keep on the kind of the landscape, because there were some other things that happened over the summer as well. So bit of news that Sompo acquire Aspen for 3.5 billion, pretty big deal that went through towards the end of the summer there, 27th of August. That's dated the press release. And yeah, I was just going to ask you, really, Ben. I was at a breakfast briefing, and we were talking about kind of changing distributions and the market and things like that. And I think it's one of the slides that you've put out before, where if you look at the top 20 brokers from maybe 15 years ago and you compare it to now, you probably wouldn't recognize not a lot of the names in there because of mergers, acquisitions, players coming in. Do you think that trend that we saw in the broker market will start to, or will ramp up in the carrier side of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's happening. We're seeing it in data that more and more business is flowing again towards fewer players. So it's tending to go to bigger players. I think the general trend has been for consolidation, and actually kind of what scuppered it a bit was around 2018, 2019 was COVID, but also for other reasons as well. Quite a few challenger players came into the market and took quite a lot of share. And it was coincided with really a bad period where some businesses were losing a lot of money on certain classes of business and had to remediate, which we know about. So that to me was a historical blip. It lasted quite a long time, but I don't think it's going to last now. I think we're going to be back to serious consolidation. It makes sense now. Scale makes sense because technology is so important to this. And data and information, as I said earlier on, it's probably becoming ubiquitous. So it's very hard to be a smaller player and know more about one particular risk. There are still those specialty businesses, don't get me wrong. There are. And there are always going to be clever people who have a great idea and make some money in this market, and that's brilliant. But I think there's much less of it. And, the facilities, the aggregating up of all sorts of and parceling up of all sorts of risks is going to continue because you've got automation and systems and data management that can do that, and there's a drive to do it. And pricing, like Tiernan said and I've said, pricing risks is going to be an automated process. It's going to be a smaller part of this now, and that's mostly what underwriters did right in the past, is just priced up a risk. And now, that is done partly by actuaries, but also just by actuarial systems that do that. And that isn't going to really stop. It's a scale type business. So I think it's going to consolidate more and more. I mean, it's happening in the UK GI market. It's happened a lot in the broking market. That deal, Sompo Aspen, that's, and once one starts, there is a bit of a domino effect in M&A.
Yeah.
So
I think that's another one to watch, I would have thought. To see,
yeah, definitely.
To see where those acquisitions take place and those kind of strategic alliances, because it is quite interesting to kind of analyze them and see where the synergies are. To your point around talent, data. Obviously, you're looking at the culture of the organization, how you're actually going to put them together or not. You're going to keep them separate. It's quite fascinating looking at.
It is, and there's some prizes, I think, if you look at emerging risks and things. And the Sompo Aspen is quite a strong, it's specialty, but it's also quite a strong reinsurance play. I think it takes them into the top 10 reinsurers in the world with that deal. Even though Aspen's not huge, it just takes Sompo into that. So it suddenly gets into the top tier of reinsurers. And, reinsurance is going to have a very strong role, if you like, in, big project type stuff that energy businesses do, and cyber as well. There's all sorts of things to think about in these new evolving risks where the reinsurance backing will be key.
Yeah.
So it's what I'm saying about that is that that's the kind of big money you need scale to do that. To do reinsurance isn't a market stall job.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so those are some of the themes that came out of the interview and what we're looking forward to over the next few months. I think so. Just to pick up on a couple of things, and they're close to our hearts. So data. We've already talked quite a bit about data and its importance and growing importance in kind of business and operating models. I think that's going to grow across the piece. In all the meetings that I'm running and talking to people, it's such a critical area and still a real mess, I think.
Yes, and I think you talk about data, but I think it's also knowledge. It's like it's data which we're still struggling with. But what I think people want in a lot of these businesses is can I get the data at my fingertips and then make something of it? Make a new product or make a different way of serving our customers or whatever it is. And I think that's been the frustration. So I think if we can get data right, that frees up a huge amount of innovation. At the moment, people can have great ideas, but if they haven't got the basic intel to use to make that work, then you can forget it.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I think we will see a kind of a move towards or a rise in status is kind of claims and claims.
Yes.
Service. So I think it will become. I think I was really intrigued at your claims social that you had before the summer break, where people would. Obviously, those were mainly claims directors, but I mean, there was a real feeling that there was a momentum behind them. They had funding. The boards were on board with the initiatives that they were trying to put through, and thinking, to take the point around data and creativity and innovation, taking those things and being creative around service, around modeling, around what customers and clients really want from their claims service. I think that's going to be big over the next 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is getting bigger. It's coming out in all our data, as we've said. I think it's going to be more part of the holistic, I hate the word holistic, but the holistic offering of an insurer, which is the whole thing. At the moment, they're very departmentally focused, claims being one of them. I think it's going to change where they're we're going to move to a world of solutions, I think, which is, risk solutions, some services maybe, but claims will be part of that, and claims won't be just at the back end of the value chain. It'll be at the front because you'll be doing, scenario planning and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it has a much bigger role to play. It's like in all parts of the industry, there needs to be reskilling and upskilling and different skills brought in to make more of it.
Yeah. So a couple of other themes that we'll be keeping a close eye on over the next few months. Here we are. I do have the seconds away bell. I knew there was something missing.
Yeah, missed that.
Yeah, there we are. Back again. Good. All right. Thanks for that, Ben. I don't know if you saw this article. It was in the Evening Standard. So, and I think there was another one in the Times you mentioned, but this kind of...
That written in 1950, that article?
It looks like it was on pink paper. But no, this was published this week. Somebody sent it to me. They've actually ripped it out, scanned it in and sent it to me. So very, very kind of them to make the effort. But it's quite an interesting read because it's kind of harking back to kind of the old ways of working through kind of rose-tinted glasses in many ways. It's almost like a nostalgia piece rather than a piece of, I don't know, critical journalism or whatever else. But I mean, what did you make of it, Ben? It seemed to be like, I don't know, I was talking at the top of the show about tensions here, and it's kind of, we've talked a lot about data, innovation, technology, and moving forward and things like that, whereas stuff like this, kind of, it seemed like cliches that are being rolled out.
Yeah, it's a very, I don't know why this is, it's like almost like accidentally an old internet article has come being published, because there's nothing very new in here. It's kind of rehash stuff. There was this, and there's one in the Sunday Times as well, and both of them make errors as well and talk about brokers when they mean underwriters and stuff like that. But okay, which is fair enough. I'm not, but still, it feels like what they call puff in the old days, PR puff. It doesn't feel too much like a new era where we're talking about what Lloyd's can and should do, and particularly if you put a photo in of the room as it was in 1950.
Yeah.
I'm not a great fan of this kind of nostalgic stuff. Not particularly not in business. I think it's kind of interesting in its place if you've got a good story around it. But just saying we had an old school. I mean, you could do this about stock exchange. You could do it about the metals exchange. You could do it about any old kind of school thing. But what the modern market is less about the room, I think, and more about the offices of the big corporate insurers around the world and the reinsurers. That's what matters. So it's I don't know, that it does suggest to me that Lloyd's needs a bit of something different from this. Because this just paints it as an old. But still, even if it says it's got some good things, it's still anachronistic, isn't it? And it's not modern.
Yeah. And if you're going to let's go back to what Patrick was saying. We want to attract the best minds, and we want to be a beacon.
Yeah.
To attract the people we want the best.
Like Jacob Rees Mogg's family would be all coming for that sort of image, wouldn't they? Not your tech bro.
Yeah. You're right. But anyway, it's just another interesting thing. I like you say, I don't know where that's come from, but anyhow,
it's like Farage. I don't want to get political, but when he's been talking about the city and what he'll do. But then a lot of people said he doesn't understand it because he was there in the 1970s and 80s, and the city is a completely different beast now. Nothing that he says really stands, and it's similar to that article really, which is yes, you can draw a line a little bit, but really. The world has changed a huge amount in insurance, much more than we care to. You can see huge amount.
Yeah. Good. Right. A couple of last things. I don't know. Tube strike this week, Ben. I don't know if it impacted you at all.
Well, I was in London and it didn't.
Yeah, I was in London and it didn't. I ran 3 events and everybody turned up apart from a couple of people. So yeah, tube strikes no longer. They didn't even make the news. In fact, I had to. Somebody rang me up last Thursday saying, "What are you doing about the tube strikes?" I didn't even know that there was one taking place. Anyway,
I have an office of about 12 or 13, 12 people or so coming in, and only one of them couldn't get in, so it doesn't. And actually, all the news headlines said, "Oh, chaos in London," but it wasn't.
No.
So there you go.
Lots of bikes, and this was great, I thought, by the Lime bikes. And so anybody who doesn't know, you can pick up these Lime bikes, and through the app you can take an electric bike anywhere you want.
Have you done one?
I haven't done a Lime bike. I've done a Boris bike.
Yeah, I used to do Boris bikes, but I think these are quite good. Apparently, I might do it. We should do it together before the next show.
Okay. We'll take a camera out and watch us.
Yeah, because it's a thing. Yeah,
it is.
Everybody's doing it.
So from a marketing point of view, this is brilliant. So those are listening, I'll just describe it. So Lime bikes have taken out an advert, and it's one of the digital adverts, so they can change it. And they've said the tagline is a good service on all limes, and it says Bakerloo lime, good. Central lime, circle lime. So playing on the fact that obviously the tube, the underground, wasn't working, and promoting their thing. And it obviously got massive traction on LinkedIn and social media and things like that. So a great piece of PR marketing by the Lime people.
I bet that's annoyed the unions.
I bet it has.
Yeah. It's very, but it's progress, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, I think somebody said it was great. It reminded them of Beijing, like 20 years ago, when everybody there was just hundreds of bikes everywhere.
Well, yes. I mean, that was the one thing I noticed about. I mean, the streets were pavements were very busy, and then there were so many of these line bikes, and there's still a lot more you can pick up. It's not like they've all gone, is it? Whereas I remember back in the day doing the Boris bikes, and you couldn't find a parking bay for them when you got to your destination, which is a problem.
Yeah, that was it. That is the one annoying thing, though. I mean, they just do get dumped in the streets.
Well, yeah, I know. Yes, if you read the Times, there's an article by Giles Corran about riding a line bike, saying yes, they're terrible. He had all these prejudices about them and people leaving them in doorways and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, he rides it and says it's the best thing he's ever done, and he felt like a god when he was on it.
Brilliant. Love that. Good. Okay. Thanks, Ben. Right, let's wrap things up. What are you doing this weekend? Anything good?
No, I'm not. No, nothing very much at all, actually. I might do a little bit of gardening, but then it's going to rain. So I think very little. But I've got such a busy week next week because I'm traveling to various conferences and speaking at a couple of things, and I've got to get those right. And we've got a big report going out and all sorts. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling like I'm a bit back to the grind after my lovely summer break.
Yeah, there we are.
But you?
I am. And so last weekend was the strawberry tea party, which
oh, lovely.
Luckily we had good weather, raised a good bit of money for the old church roof. So that's good. And so this weekend I'm off the hook. So it's actually quite a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
great.
Well, that strawberry tea party went well.
Yeah, it was good. I need to write to everybody actually. Thank them.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will be back next week. Have a great weekend. See you soon.
Have a good one. Bye.